Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
I was just going to say, what is this? What are we calling this now? The DCEU? Is it still the DCEU, or did they...
I mean, kind of, but they're like... None of them are really connected anymore. And I was reading the trivia for this specifically, and it's like not connected at all.
I mean, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't know. The DC shit is beyond me at this point.
Well, because Jared said something about the worlds of DC, and I hadn't heard that before, and then I looked yesterday, and I guess that's what they're trying to rebrand it as. And while that is evocative... And I guess that implies that they could bleed over. It's not as easily hashtagable as, like, DCEU, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, I mean, it's still the DC. I don't know. I actually kind of want to get into this a little bit more, and we can do that once we get going. So.
Let's do it.
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Shazam, which is the new DCU Worlds of DC movie.
It is the latest DC Comics superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means now.
Yeah. So I'll start at the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start. I now owe Rodgers and Hammerstein 90% of the revenues from this.
Let's just, you know...
heard about that, right?
You know, but listeners, just, you know, don't rat us out. Be cool. Don't be an Anne Rice. Be a Joss Whedon or a J.K. Rowling. Let the fan art happen.
90% of the money Ariana Grande makes off of Seven Rings. Or no.
90%?
With that song. I can't think of the name. I want it. I got it. That, like... The one that samples favorite things.
Sure.
90% of the revenue goes to Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Gross.
Well, I mean, she agreed to it.
Well, sure,
and at this point, she doesn't, I mean, I think
she doesn't need money,
yeah,
sure.
I think she made the deal, but, because they are sticklers. They are, I always wondered how Gwen Stefani got winded up.
Probably 90% of the fucking proceeds for Winded Up go to them.
Because they actually let Kylie sing The Sound of Music. Concert and stuff. So, anyways, back to task. Shazam. I was nervous about this one. I thought it was weird. Yeah, I thought it was real weird.
Okay.
Most of it, I like Zachary Levi.
I love Zachary Levi.
Fine. I guess I'm not a huge fan, but
I'm a huge fan.
Game.
Well, I watched a handful of Chuck. Mm-hmm. And so and I love Flynn and Philip are my favorite Disney princes. And then he was on season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And so I'm just like a full fan. I think he's fabulous.
Well, he was also in Thor: The Dark World and kind of Thor: Ragnarok.
Sure.
He had a very unceremonious exit from that. And then I think like the next day or like the next week got Shazam. But I was the most nervous because it is a truly hideous costume. And
I don't have like a huge problem with it.
Oh, it's awful.
Hideous in what way? Just the red and yellow? Or
every capacity. That stupid, it's like a muscle suit, like in the theme parks where they're wearing muscle suits.
Yeah.
And that stupid light up lightning bolt and the white cape with the Greek key that stops at like mid-thigh. All of it. Like there's not a thing about it that's good. And
I don't agree with you, but I'm not. I don't like it enough to argue with you. So
no, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And actually, I mean, there is a very funny joke in the movie.
Yeah,
where the guy is like, "I applaud your choices today, brother."
Gold boots, gold cape,
gold belt, like but
no, I have literally no problem with the costume. It's a superhero costume. I don't really care.
Yeah, it's a way too literal. Like, it looks like it was made in, like, the 60s.
I mean, it was.
Well, it was made in the 40s. The character was from the 40s. The character is also weirdly called Captain Marvel. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I'm trying to remember if there was a point in time where they were one studio and divided, or it was just the word, like, Marvel.
Shazam was first.
Okay.
And then they changed his name from Captain Marvel to Shazam at some point, and then Captain Marvel in the Marvel universe is a whole different thing.
Okay. So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. I was very unsure about it. And also, I think it was not so much that I thought the movie was going to be bad as I was having a hard time reconciling it with what we had seen thus far of Zack Snyder's Snyderverse.
Sure.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? This is such a radical, like, 180. And I guess by this point we had already had Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember when this all came, because there was a trailer. There was a trailer for Shazam that I saw probably, and for once I'm not going to exaggerate, I probably saw that trailer like 17 times. I was so done. And it was a charming trailer, but I was so done with it. And I guess to cut to the chase, in retrospect, I am so pleased with every single aspect, every single decision DC made with this movie.
100%.
This is the rare case where the trailer, while an appropriate taste of what the movie's going to be like, offers you virtually nothing about the movie other than the character can shapeshift big style between a 14-year-old and an adult superhero.
Yeah.
And that's really the only necessary thing you need to know about it going in. I don't think I'm exaggerating at all when I say this movie is so fucking good.
It's very good. For personal and other reasons, I still prefer Wonder Woman as a film. Mm-hmm. But this is absolutely the funniest and the most fun DC movie that has come out so far.
Oh, this is funnier than half of Marvel movies, too. I mean, this
for sure.
And there's no real reason to be comparing them other than they're the most obvious comparison. So, we're not doing that here. But I guess to go ahead and say, I've already gotten past this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Shazam is an American superhero film based on the DC comic character of the same name. It's the 7th installment of the DCEU, and it's directed by David F. Sandberg from a screenplay by Henry Gayden. The film stars Asher Angel as Billy Batson, a teenage boy who transforms into an adult superhero, played by Zachary Levi. Mark Strong, Grace Fulton, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Jaimin Hansu also star. There's way more characters. This movie is so good from the beginning.
Yep.
But especially from Zachary Levi's appearance.
100%. He is like a walking embodiment of the word charm. He is so charming. He is handsome, extremely handsome, but in a very approachable way. Mm-hmm. The tip of his nose is a little bit bulbous, which gives him a kind of goofy quality. He's got like brown hair and brown eyes, so he's not like a dark-haired, blue-eyed man. That's like very weird to approach. And he's got that like 1,000-watt smile. He just is very handsome, but I feel like I could still be friends with him.
And even the poster, just the choice of him, the way he's leaning on the like exclamation point or whatever, and with the pink bubblegum, like it's it's so good. But this movie felt long to me in an exciting way. Like I guess it's only 2 hours and like 5 minutes or something.
It says 12 on IMDb. Okay. 2 hours and 12, yeah.
But I felt like this felt like binging a show that I wanted to keep watching.
It really was interesting to me because there is an extended cast of characters.
Yeah.
There are like 5 other foster children, plus the foster parents, plus Billy, plus Freddy, plus the villain, plus the one who's Shazam before him, and nobody feels like they got short shrift.
Even the bullies,
who and
I
even
questioned
the parents,
their presence at first.
Parents.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was blown away by how well thought out this movie seemed to be, especially given the other DC movies that we've seen so far, which seem, again, aside from Wonder Woman, to have had...
And Aquaman.
And Aquaman. But which seem to have had less than 5% thought put into them. And it's just like so refreshing, and the fact that it was so hilarious, and we did have kind of a rowdy audience, which is what you wanted from us.
Yeah.
And we didn't get, but we did have kind of a rowdy audience in this one, and it was so welcome.
We should maybe go see Endgame and Ultimate. Maybe that's the...
Right? Well, I know that I missed jokes because everybody was laughing so hard.
Well, but
I can't wait to watch this again.
I was also going to say that to their credit, though, a handful of times you can tell they knew something was going to be funny, and they made sure that there was a pause between the next bit of dialogue.
Yep.
So we did miss a couple jokes, but also it was crafted in such a way that this movie was laugh out loud funny in a way I was not expecting.
Same.
And
even knowing that Zachary Levi is really good at comedy, I wasn't expecting it.
One of them, and I'll get to it in the spoiler section, I laughed, stopped laughing, thought about it for a minute, and then started laughing even more. You had to ask me if I was okay because I was like still going. And it very much was giving me two vibes. It was giving me PG-13 Deadpool.
Okay.
And it was giving me Spider-Man Homecoming.
Sure. Yep. I agree with both of those.
And that's what I would say, that if you wished that you could combine those two movies, that is what this is like.
If you wished you could take your tween to see Deadpool or you want another Spider-Man before Far From Home comes out, take your kids to see Shazam.
And on that note, on the kids' note, not to contradict you, but this is a shockingly dark movie, considering how fun it is.
Yeah, it's shockingly dark.
At times.
At points, there is some language, like they said shit a lot more than I thought they were going to. And it deals with some like heavy themes of like abandonment and potential spousal abuse, and like there's a lot going on, but it also does that thing that we love so much and we talk about all the time, which is found family. Quite literally with a foster family. It was all around. I was very impressed, and I was having fun every single minute of it.
How expensive was this? It looked incredible.
I don't know. It did look great.
And it wasn't overdone, because I think every single one of the Snyder movies is overdone. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
To a comical degree.
Yeah. It doesn't say on IMDb, I'm not sure. 80
to 100 million, exactly.
Okay.
Thank God. Oh my God. We need more of this. We absolutely need more of this, because we say this all the time, and it is not a hot take. It is a very lukewarm take, but it's like DC was trying to compete with Marvel in real time, and they just didn't. I realized I was pounding on the desk. Sorry for that audio. I'm passionate. I'm like into this, but they didn't do any of the groundwork. And I'm so frustrated watching Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and this. And I'm like, how? How were these not the first three movies that we got? Because they go in that order anyways, even timeline-wise. Like,
yeah, and I guess the thing for me, and I think we've talked about it, but I don't know if we've done it on the show, which is, I think that DC was trying to get a Kevin Feige in Zack Snyder, but that is not Zack Snyder's wheelhouse.
We also like Zack Snyder when used appropriately.
Yeah, but this is undertaking a giant shared universe is not what he's built for. And it's unfortunate that DC has not found their Kevin Feige, because I believe sincerely that they could make these movies good. They could, honestly, number one, they need to start over with Batman and Superman, because nobody wants more Christopher Nolan unless Christopher Nolan is doing it. And that's the problem, is that both Superman movies were trying to pull a Christopher Nolan on Superman, which is not possible or plausible or enjoyable for anybody. And then, as much as I actually
there
do
are people
enjoy,
that like Man of Steel, and I only saw it the one time in the theater, and I was falling asleep. So, I mean, maybe I need to see it again.
It's not my favorite, and I think Henry Cavill does fine. It's whatever.
That's the thing. I've gotten used to both Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. We were never against Ben Affleck.
Well, that's what I was going to say. As much as I do enjoy Ben Affleck, and I even more enjoy an over-the-hill Batman, that's an interesting notion to take. He is well past his prime in this situation, let's explore that. I'm super for that. I think he and Gal Gadot have wonderful chemistry. I'm sad he's leaving, basically. But none of the movies have felt cohesive in a way that, like, from almost minute one, the MCU felt so cohesive because they had that Kevin Feige who was like, this is what we're going to do.
I still think that to me, every single Snyder movie felt like we were trying to catch up. Like, so much so that Man of Steel was being told out of sequence because we had to catch up. It was like we were racing to get to the crossover part. And it's like, we don't care about that part if we don't care about the individual pieces. And so here we are now with an individual piece that I cannot wait for them to cross over, and now it's murky. And my guess is they're going to do whatever makes money. And so if putting Zachary Levi and Gal Gadot in a room together makes them money, then they will do it.
Sure, but here is what I have gleaned, essentially. With James Gunn taking over Suicide Squad, he is evidently doing a hard reboot on Suicide Squad.
Okay.
So this is not a sequel, it's a reboot. It's like a new Suicide Squad movie.
But we're keeping Margot Robbie, right?
Keeping Margot Robbie, but almost no one else.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And I still maintain that they need their own Kevin Feige, but at this point, what we have left pieces-wise is we have Gal Gadot, we have Ezra Miller, we have Jason Momoa, now we have Zachary Levi, and we have Margot Robbie. That's a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, or I guess I don't know if Shazam is part of the Justice League or not, but who gives a fuck? Pull him in there.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Page never met Frank Castle, but it worked on the TV show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a solid team of gifted actors who I am 100% confident can play off each other very well. Do something with that. Build on the good parts.
God, can you imagine Aquaman with Harley Quinn?
Unbelievable. He would love her. He would find a way to relate. He would love her so much. That's the thing for me is you do have all these pieces that are very enjoyable. And since you've lost everybody else, play to what you have going for you. And I'm just so worried that because they don't have a unifying force behind the camera, that's not going to happen. Honestly, give it to Patty Jenkins. She's so great. Just like, let Patty Jenkins do it.
At this point, I don't know that she wants to, but...
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't know. That's my vibe for it. If we could have more movies that feel like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and this... That's what you need. I don't want more dark superheroes.
The running theme, there are two running themes through all three of these movies, and it is fun and heart. Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
And color, but
fun and heart and love, to be honest. Love is like a huge thing that goes through them all.
Love is all you need.
Love of family, romantic love, the love you build yourself. I mean... all of that runs through them all. And I think that, I said I don't want more dark superhero movies, and that's correct. But I don't want people to think I don't enjoy the darkness in superheroes.
Well, to get back to this movie, this was a very dark movie.
Yeah.
100%.
But it used the darkness in a smart way where, like, I know that there is a scene coming up in Endgame where Steve is at a survivor support group.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting darkness to me, but the movies as a whole are not dark. There are jokes, there is fun stuff, there is like interpersonal stuff, and you're right, Shazam had darkness in it.
I mean, we start in a dark place.
We start in a super dark place, but it wasn't built around darkness the way that the Christopher Nolan the Dark Knight trilogy was. And it's like
the first word in the like high up producers meeting wasn't edgy. You know what I mean?
Right. 100%. And that's the thing I keep going back to. Was the Dark Knight trilogy different and interesting and wonderful in its own way? 100% yes, absolutely.
Well, it was also grounded in such reality.
And it was grounded in such reality. But I feel the world is a richer place for having that Batman trilogy. However, don't try to do that again immediately with the next thing. And that's what I feel like the DCEU is trying to do, and why I do like this and Aquaman and Wonder Woman so much more than what we had before.
It was also a status quo. We were very much the mid 2000s was an era of, dark, gritty reboots. And I also think
but the
that they were...
real world is dark and gritty now. I don't want to see that on my movie screen.
Well, I also think they were trying to distance themselves from Marvel. And this is way more like a Marvel movie, Shazam, and, well, frankly, Aquaman. And Aquaman, there was Black Panther all through Aquaman, you know?
Sure, absolutely. I just think if you're trying to compete with somebody, I guess I don't know... They were trying to compete in such a weird way because they were trying so hard to mimic the like flow, I guess, or like the staging of them, but then they went hard the opposite direction content-wise.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say the understanding, at least between the studios themselves, the high-ups, is that this is a friendly rivalry. It is the fans that take it into the dirt.
Well, and I'm not calling any I'm not calling any DC fans trash or garbage or anything. It's the movies they've released so far, with the 3 exceptions we've talked about, are not for me. That is not what I want out of any of this. And it's just like, I would prefer, I think they should have course corrected the other way and gone back to more of like a Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney Batman. Like lean back into the silly. We like already had the really dark, gritty part. We don't need that anymore.
I mean, we need to talk about Shazam because this is about Shazam. But the Batman and Robin was so reviled that I can see how
not that silly. Don't lean.
No,
back
I know, but
far.
it's like I can see how people were like, "Well, we can never do this again," and it's like, yeah, you just need to do it the right way or with the right people.
Yeah, there's a way to do it, and it's without Joel Schumacher.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, people liked Batman Forever. I thought. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
Val Kilmer. People like. I mean, people love Michael Keaton, but people like Val Kilmer fine.
And that was another thing that I mentioned with the trailers. Like, I knew nothing about this. I did not know who Thaddeus was when we were introduced to him.
Same.
Much so that I was surprised at the halfway point when I thought, I guess, do we want to do... I'm going to talk about everything, so I guess light spoilers now, and then we'll get into hard spoilers, because there is definitely there is a light spoil, hard spoiler.
A line in the sand.
But I was a little bit surprised, to be perfectly honest, when I did realize that Thaddeus was the villain. I was like, okay. You know, I mean, I wasn't like, whoa, what? But... And it is played by Mark Strong, who always the right choice, Mark Strong.
Always the right choice. We do love him. I do feel a little bit like Cam from Modern Family when the woman at the play date insults Meryl Streep. I just don't think she was the right choice, and he was like, Meryl Streep could play Batman and she'd be the right choice. I kind of feel that way about Mark Strong sometimes, where I'm like, just put him in everything. He'll elevate everything. And
I mean, there's a scene where, and what was Mark Strong's name? Thaddeus? Sivana. He goes to the company that his father and brother work at, who were, dicks to him when he was young. And
real big dicks. The brother called him a prick, and the dad called him a little shit.
And he unleashes the 7 deadly sins on them because he has, through magic means, embodied them. He was called in as a child. Okay, there's a wizard named Shazam, played by Djimon Hounsou. Always the right choice, Djimon Hounsou.
Also always the right choice, who has been getting around the comic book movies.
And he is trying to pass on his staff, his duty as the wizard who guards, this temple where the 7 deadly sins are locked away. And Thaddeus was one of the children that he tested, and Thaddeus failed. And of course, Thaddeus, it corrupted him, and he wanted to get back. And so he does, and he
releases the sins from their prison and then takes them into him. They're like dusty, kind of. Yeah.
And so there is the scene where Thaddeus goes into the office building, and it's very Dogma.
It is very Dogma.
He kills these people, I don't know how innocent they are, because they are, wealthy board heads or, what have you. But this is the kind of thing that, to the note, all this started because we were talking about it's good for kids, and I was going to say, it depends. It
is dark. I mean, it has a PG-13, so, I mean, if you're a stickler for the MPAA rules, then...
Well, and when I was younger, I was very sensitive to violence against women, and it's like, there are women in this boardroom, and
we don't see any of the women die.
Well, we see them Independence Day.
But it's implied. And I did want to give the movie props for having a very diverse board. There were lots of women and minorities on this board. So, I mean, good on you for one thing, Papa Savannah, but...
And the sins were interesting enough. I probably, if I'm being critical, I would have liked them to have been a little bit more stylish, and there's even a joke made about that in the movie where Shazam is bummed that Lust wasn't hotter.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure out who Lust was. I figured it was one with the tongue.
I figured
Greed had
probably.
2 arms, 4 hands.
4 arms, yeah.
4.
I had forgotten. I was thinking about it. Literally, I was thinking about it the entire movie. As soon as I knew the deadly sins were in there, I was like, greed and avarice are the same thing, right? And I had to just look it up right now because I never looked it up yesterday when we got home, but they are, in fact, the same. Because I was trying to make them different, and I was like, no, I think they're the same.
Well, it's greed, envy, sloth, gluttony, lust, wrath,
pride. And wrath.
There you go.
Yeah. There are 7 deadly sins, Captain. Gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. 7.
Hold on. That's not even my desk.
I was like, I know this shit.
I did not go to Catholic school, but I do love the movie 7. It's great.
No, it's great. But so anyways, I mean, that was a weird place to start, but we, and we're not going to detail the plot. So I guess that was a fine place to start. But yes, there is this darkness, and it serves the movie really well because so much of the movie is so lighthearted. I mean, even the scene where they're in the gas station with the like robbery where these guys are shooting him. It's like, but that's all played for joy and comedy and stuff. And so it's sort of reminding you that there are very real, very vicious stakes just around the corner.
Yeah, and that's, I think something that we both really gravitate towards, and something that is, kind of a hinge point on so much media, which is that you can't have the joy without the darkness. If there weren't deep, dark, serious stakes, it wouldn't be so funny. They have to work together in that way. And I think that that's really important. And especially for a movie that is, mostly for kids, or like mostly appropriate for kids, that's really important. You have to know that you are allowed to have dark feelings as well. You just can't let them consume you. I think that that's, it's messages, and we talk about it all the time, but it's like, that's stuff that kids are capable of understanding, but it's always good and helpful to see it in a medium that is going to stick with them. Like, I think this movie will stick with kids of this generation, kids that are going to see it, and I think that's really wise. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff from movies when I was growing up, and I think that that's important because it's such a generalized medium, but you have to be responsible with what you're doing.
I was seeing online, a lot of comparisons of this movie to the movie Gremlins. And
oh yeah, I can see that.
I actually have never seen Gremlins. I was too scared as a kid, and I also thought Gremlins was like a horror film that now I understand it's like a dark comedy.
It's like campy. I don't know if you would like it, but it's not terrifying.
Yeah, but when I was 5, that was my understanding.
Then it would have been terrifying, yeah.
And the director does have his history in horror.
Okay.
So I think that is a little bit apparent. Well, I mean, even not unlike Aquaman with, what was his name? Aquaman, the director of Aquaman.
Oh, James Wan.
James Wan. That he came from a horror background, and that is evident in several scenes in Aquaman and stuff. But
yeah, well, yeah, with the like horde or whatever. I mean, I was skimming an article earlier about Us, and it was basically, people think that horror is nothing but like cheap jump scares. But horror is actually, in order to make a good horror movie that's going to stand the test of time, you have to have a real handle on a lot of different things. And I feel like that's why it's such a maligned category or genre at like awards shows and stuff. Because going into Shazam again and also Aquaman, if we hadn't had these two directors with that background in horror, a lot of the darkness would have landed in a more campy place, and it really needed to be actually dark and actually scary in order to make the drama and the comedy land the way that it does. I think it's such an important part of storytelling to bring the real world stakes and terror into stuff like this.
Mm.
That was all.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I don't know where to go from there.
Sorry.
Okay, so we were talking about the found family stuff, and there is he's a foster kid. And, I was very curious where we were going, and I did trust the Velasquezes.
Yeah.
Was that how? Yeah. I did trust them. I didn't think that we were going to an Insidious place that way, but there was a part of me that was sort of like, what are we building to? And I was having a hard time understanding as to how he actually got lost.
Yeah, because I was mostly there from the beginning because I was like, a 4-year-old doesn't have the capacity to search for his mother, but a mother has the capacity to search for her 4-year-old until she finds him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was pretty sure from the beginning that she had just not looked for him.
Well, yeah, but also I was confused as to how the police wouldn't. I mean, can't you do like a blood test or something? Like I don't know. It felt
they would have had to find her.
Would they have? Okay,
because he didn't know her first name.
Okay. I just figured hospital records. I don't know.
No, he knew his.
Because there was a part of me that was. Go ahead.
Well, because I was going to say, I don't think he was born in Philadelphia, and he knew his own last name, but he didn't know his mother's first name, so that's why he was looking for Batson's.
Right, okay.
And so he didn't know.
There was surprisingly a lot of information in this movie, too.
There was, yeah. It was packed from end to end, but not in like an overstuffed way.
Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if. I thought either she didn't want him or there was a magic element happening.
Mm.
And I guess we will get to the spoilers because I do want to talk about some. Well, not yet, but was it Velasquez or Vasquez?
Was Vasquez.
Vasquez. Okay, sorry. Yeah. The Vasquezes. And who is she? Because we thought she was Melissa George at first. And that's Rosa.
Her name is Marta Milans.
Okay.
She is not really anybody, but she is Melissa George's Spanish doppelganger. They are almost identical. Because I was at first, when she started speaking Spanish at the beginning, and I was like, Melissa George should not be doing that. So I was like, I fucking hope it's not her. And it wasn't. So I don't really. She was apparently on that show No Tomorrow, but I don't remember her from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did really like that show, but I don't remember her from it. And I have never seen her in anything else. So.
And then Cooper Andrews was Victor, and they were the parents. And they were really great. They had not a lot of material, but they did a lot with the material they had. And
they had enough material. I thought I was right.
It was nice. I don't know anything about the foster system other than episodes of SVU and stuff, and it usually is represented poorly. I guess it can kind of be a mixed bag, and I guess there also are a lot of factors because sometimes the kids are not cooperative, much like Billy was being.
Yeah. So I don't know how actually realistic it is, but I always found throughout the run of the show Bones, there's a lot of talk about the foster system because the main character was raised in the foster system for like 5 years, I think. And I always thought that was, if not totally realistic, at least a nuanced sense of it. It felt like they really approached it from a bunch of sides. And so this house sort of felt like definitely, obviously one of the good ones because the parents loved each other and they loved all the kids and it was like an actual real family and they made them feel safe and everything. So again, I don't know very much about the foster system in reality either, but you're right. It is more of a mixed bag than anything. And I think a lot of times the foster parents can just be in it for like the money, like they get a check from the state for however many kids they have and stuff like that.
Well, this was a very idealized version.
It was, yeah. This was definitely a good house, one of the ones you don't want to run away from.
Or, because there were five of them? One?
Freddie and Darla and Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two
Eugene
other boys.
And Pedro.
So once Billy got there were 6 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned earlier, that is a lot of characters and personalities to keep a handle on. And they really did. And there is an assumption that there will be more. And I think, because I would say that the two boys, I would say that probably Pedro and Eugene had the least amount of material. Darla, Mary, and
Freddie
had a lot of very good material.
Who I will say, if anybody likes Freddy, or if anybody liked the movie It, the remake of the movie It, he was in that.
Mm-hmm. Jack Dylan Grazer.
Jack Dylan Grazer. I
also think Darla, she's a little star in the making.
She was great, yeah. I did want to say Finn Wolfhard was in, and Sophia Lyles were both in It as well, but I think Jack Dylan Grazer he's the one that stood out for me specifically, and I think he's gonna go far also. Well,
and I mean, this is sort of a co-starring movie for him, where he very much is with Asher Angel was great, but obviously Zachary Levi is who we're focusing on the most.
Right.
And he was able to have chemistry with both of them. And I honestly did buy that they were the same person. I think they could have looked more alike, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that it's supposed to be Billy grown up. I think it's sort of an idealized version of what a hero would look like.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else general you wanted to say, or...?
No, I mean, I really liked all of the kids. Eugene was like a little bit stereotypical, but... it worked, so I'm not mad about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we mentioned, this is a very, very, very funny movie and a very entertaining movie. And, I was a little bit suspicious of this cast of characters because I was like, this feels like we're building to something, but I couldn't possibly know what it is.
Right.
And this is well into the spoiler territory. And actually, I will even start with the Billy finding his mother, that he does find his mother, and it is just that she didn't want him. And are we done with this storyline? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was handled in a really interesting way, especially with where he was remembering when he got lost at the beginning, and then when she remembered how he got lost. She said she was 17, and that's very young. I can understand, I saw you with the cops. I thought you'd be better off, so I didn't look. I get it. Like, that is a tough spot. But it also is like, that's horrible. Like, I can't imagine hearing that as a child. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It just is it's a very intense thing. And that's I think part of what I liked so much about this, where that's a very intense thing for a child to hear, and I think that they handled it in this movie so well. Mm-hmm. Like, surprisingly crazy well they handled that. It's such a deep, dark place for a movie like this to go, and it just didn't feel out of place at all. I thought it was wonderful.
In a weird way, it felt slightly open-ended to me. It felt like we would revisit that if there was a sequel, and I don't know how I don't know if I want to. I don't know. And I mean, it's a real thing. We've talked about it several times recently, even, because there was an opportunity in How to Train Your Dragons where there was a mother character that I wasn't sure how they were going to handle it. And, it does just go to show you that as important as family is, all families matter. All families are real, even found families. And
yeah, for sure.
He resists a lot, but by the end, he does embrace this family of his. And this does bring us to the thing that I was, for the third time, alluding to in this episode.
Spoilers for real.
But there is a plot point that shocked me. I did not see it coming. And a couple people have said they did. But did you?
No. Are you talking about the rest of the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't see it coming at all. And a lot of the casting was spectacularly done.
It's the best part of the movie, and has, if not the best, the second best joke in the movie, where initially there was a council of wizards in charge of, guarding and protecting these things, the 7 deadly sins. There's like a magic orb, tesseract ball. And
everybody wants the box.
Yes.
To quote
There's a
Linda
box,
Holmes.
everybody wants the box. And Shazam, Jaimin Hansu Shazam, was the last one. And so I should have really seen it coming, but...
Yeah, I feel it. After it happened, I felt like I should have too, but I definitely did not.
Zachary Levi, Shazam, is with all of his foster siblings, and Mark Strong's Thaddeus is coming after them, and he was like... He just figured it out that he could give them powers too. So he has them all place their hands on his staff, and he says to say his name in unison, and they all yell Billy.
It was amazing.
That was the one that I laughed and then stopped and then started laughing again, and you had to check on me. And
it was so good.
All of them transform into superheroes, and it got applause in the theater, and it was like deserved. I was like astonished. I was like, oh my God. And there's some cameos in there that I guess we won't say.
Oh, okay. Shit. I really wanted to talk about it.
Well, you can. Because, I mean, at this point, if someone's listening to this, they want the spoilers, so.
We're 40 minutes in. You want the spoilers. Okay, well, first of all, you were right about Megan Good. She is in Debs.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought for a minute that I knew her from something else, and I don't. But she reminds me a lot of the woman who was on Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
She's not her, but she reminds me of her. But she was Darla. And she did such a good job of being a little girl.
Yeah.
I can't even explain it. Such a good job.
There's even a line where they say something, I don't even remember the word, but they say a word, and she was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. And then Ross Butler was really fun. He was Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
That was really fun. We like Ross Butler as the original Reggie on Riverdale, and then he's also on 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. And my absolute favorite was Freddie. So perfectly turned into Adam Brody. I can't explain how much I loved that. I have loved Adam Brody since forever.
And it's so exciting because we spend so much of the movie watching Freddie grapple with the fact that this thing he's always wanted has been given to his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a fairly decent job of handling it, and he spirals out a little bit, considering that he's a middle schooler, you know?
Well, also, but rightfully so, because at that point, Billy's being kind of a dick about it.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, there were bully characters that I really questioned their presence in the movie at first, because it worked so over the top. Like, it was so egregious, but it ultimately does work by the end of the movie. And it does deliver probably one of the best laughs and one of the best bits of the movie. It is so meta. It is so, well, again, borderline Daredevil, like practically breaking the fourth wall. I'll go ahead and say it now because we're here. But Freddy was trying to impress his bullies and his friends by saying he's friends with Shazam. And so he promises them Shazam will come to lunch. And at that point, Billy stands him up. And so later at the end of the movie, is this the scene at the end of the movie? It's not the end credit scene. Yeah, it's the last scene of the movie.
Yeah.
And so Shazam does finally show up, and there's the scene where he's like, and you know all of us are watching this thoroughly fucking enjoying it and confused as to what's happening with the DCEU.
Right.
And then we see that he's brought a friend with him, and it is the now iconic, I guess, current Superman suit walks in.
Yeah.
And the entire theater was like, and then it cuts away the second he goes to sit down, so we don't see his head.
Evidently, it was supposed to be Henry Cavill, but he couldn't make it work with the Mission Impossible filming.
Fucking still?
Yeah.
Then why didn't they just CG his head on there?
I don't know, because Joss Whedon wasn't available.
But I think it works better without it, because it still leaves it open for, because he says he's leaving, but then we don't know, and it's
right.
Like, it leaves it open, and I think the meta joke is probably better than the surprise cameo.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
I think that
you got me.
A surprise cameo by Henry Cavill would have kind of undercut the whole thing for me. The fact that we don't see his face, I think, is a lot more fun. And
it's up there with the Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's up there with the Captain America, the scene where you wait through all of and Marvel credits sequences are gargantuan.
Yeah,
and then it's just Captain America being like,
"Hi, I'm Captain America. Here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have. Patience."
You know what I mean? Like, it's such a middle finger to the audience. Like,
100%. I definitely agree.
And that's sort of playing with expectations is, So, you know, knowing now that this entire family of kids and such cool kids and such interesting kids have this ability, and that we get to keep the kids as well. We get to keep the kids as well as their big superheroes. There was also a fun little nod to Big.
Yes, there was, yeah.
There honestly is more stuff. Did you have more stuff?
I mean, at this point, I think I would just be going over what parts I thought were the most hilarious, but...
And that's not fun. We've already spoiled several.
We have spoiled several. the way that everything played out, I think, was so perfect. And if literally nothing else, if I had hated this movie, if I had not liked it at all, I would have at least definitely wanted to go back to Philadelphia. So, like, this movie, if nothing else, is like a really nice postcard from Philadelphia.
That's what I was talking about with the budget, where it was like the scale of this movie. It felt big and exciting, but it wasn't these like crippling world-ending stakes that so many of these movies feel like they have to be to compete with whatever Marvel movie is. And it's like, you know, we took 22 movies before we get to the 3 fucking hours end of the universe climax. You know, that is a gradual build.
You're definitely right, and that I think is the crux of the problem with this, you know, friendly or otherwise rivalry, which is that Marvel really did build a cinematic universe. They really, really did do that. And then by the time that they were like 12 or so movies deep, DC was like, fuck, we gotta catch up. Let's immediately get to ending the world. And it's like, to just start there, if it's not a movie like Independence Day, if you're trying to build a universe and you start with the heaviest stakes imaginable, that doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get invested in the characters at that point. But like you said, when we were 19 movies deep and then we got to the Thanos snap and half of the people that we loved were dead, I was like, well, fuck, what are we going to do now? And it's like, I'm invested in that in a way that I honestly, I'm happy to see Henry Cavill go if he's leaving. I mean, I like him, but I also don't care.
But where this was like, it was so much more, it felt big. And I'm not trying to say it felt small, because sometimes things feel small. And actually, that was a problem I had with Captain Marvel, was I thought it felt a little too small. I wanted it to feel a little bit bigger, considering its gravitas and its place. But it's like...
But again, that's what we liked so much about Ant-Man, is that it felt small.
But this, and that's not a pun.
No. It was a small, contained heist story.
This felt appropriate.
Yeah.
In a way where it's ultimately 2 and then 7 people fighting in Philadelphia.
Right.
Is ultimately what it boils down to. And even though the implications are much larger, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Also, just probably one of the funniest Santas I've ever seen in a movie.
It was so good. And again, with Darla, Megan Good as Darla, like being like, I've been really good this year.
Yeah.
Like, she's still a little girl inside of her, and the Santa is like, what the fuck are you doing?
And actually, just to sum it up, I was going to say, this is rare. A lot of movies, even great movies that we love, a lot of movies have a third act problem. They sort of fall apart in the third act. I mean, even Wonder Woman has been kind of criticized for that. And this is the rare movie that doesn't. And in fact, the third act is the strongest act. And
I agree. I definitely agree.
I am shocked at how much I enjoyed it. And I am going to tell everybody I know to see it. And DC's confident. They're proud of this, to do these advanced screenings this way. And if anything,
these last couple, they have really, I noticed that too. I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is another DC movie. And I was like, they just did this with Aquaman. I think they are trying to pull out of the nosedive they were in. And I can't wait I think they're going to do the same for Wonder Woman. I am optimistic. I'm optimistic.
Well, I'm also nervous for Shazam, though, because half of the fun was not knowing anything about it, and now so many people know what it is, so it's going to be on the internet. We're recording it right now, you know what I mean? This is not going to release till Friday, the day it comes out, but still.
I feel like there's an embargo.
Yeah, but people are going to be in comments and YouTube comments and shit talking about it.
Yeah, maybe.
So, I hope it works. I hope that, because they're betting on the word of mouth. They're betting on if they get a bunch of people like us talking so big about it so early that it'll push people. And it's in a really sweet spot where it is sort of like right in the middle between Captain Marvel and Endgame. So it can get a good 2 weeks, possibly even 3 weeks, where it's the king. So
yeah, absolutely. I just, for me, this is the type of movie that makes me want to go to the movies. Because it's gonna be better on the big screen. It was so much fun. There were stakes, but it wasn't crazy.
Seeing it with an audience.
The audience was great. This is absolutely. I mean, I love an art house movie. I love an Oscar drama as much as the next person. But this movie is the reason I go to the movies. I want to see something like this more often than anything else. And I think that that's a really big testament.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, even just look at the movies we compared it to. You know, it's like I mentioned Dogma earlier. Like,
I mean, Dogma. I mean, this to me felt a lot like the Guardians movies, and a little bit like the Ant-Man movies. I mean, it was big and small in scale in all the right places, and it was dark and frothy in all the right places. I'm with you. I think, and this is also, I would say, coming out in a sweet spot where it's not January, but it's not blockbuster season yet. It's perfect for this time of year. Everything about it, I loved. I was
gonna say, him doing the bus with the dog was so funny too. That was
doing the bus with the dog.
Yeah, holding the bus with the dog sitting in the street.
Oh yes. Sorry, yes.
So,
that was very good.
So okay, well, I'm done. I think that's all.
I could be done. Obviously we recommend Shazam. Are there any like songs you want me to plug? You gonna put anything on the thing?
I don't remember any.
Okay.
Was there music? Well, there's the Kendrick Lamar, the Be Humble, was the one from the trailer.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't know that to say it, so.
Well, it's Kendrick Lamar's Humble.
Are you going to put it on Spotify?
Sure, it was used really well in the trailer.
Okay, all right.
Sit down, be humble.
All right. Well, I guess then, as always, you can find us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. We are also on Facebook and Tumblr, So I'm Watching This Show. Will is going to put Kendrick Lamar's Be Humble on the...
I'm not familiar.
Spotify playlist. Fuck you. And then we do have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything from the top. And then other than that, you can just rate, review, and subscribe on Instagram, on iTunes, or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Bye.
Bye.